All right, so remember how we caught up and we were all excited that we were caught up and we weren't going to be too backlogged with a bunch of episodes that we had watched? Oh my goodness, we are 14 episodes behind now.
God.
14.
So many.
Oh boy. Okay, so yeah, we're 14 episodes into season 5 at this point. There's only 20 episodes in the season, so we're almost a full season behind.
That's crazy.
All right, so we had talked about episode 24 of season 4 last time, which was part 1 of 3 episodes.
Oh, yes.
So now we are jumping into a double header with Redux and Redux 2 from episode 1 and 2 of season 5.
So much has happened since then.
I know people don't, like, some people like our off-the-cuff style and are like, I love, like, watching you guys go stream of consciousness and try to, like, piece back together things. And other people are like, why are you guys not prepared? You want to talk about unprepared. We watched these episodes a while ago, and I don't even know what episode we're talking about right now until I read these notes as we're watching.
Sometimes I don't even know what we're talking about until you've, like, been talking for, like, a minute. And then I'm like, oh, yeah. But I do remember this. Okay, so this is the first episode of
season 1.
Yeah.
Or season 1.
Season 5. Yeah. Yes.
Episode 1 of season 1.
Okay.
So at the end of episode 24 of season 4, Scully leaves off in her hearing that Mulder has committed suicide. Right. And we're left off with the notion that maybe Mulder's dead. Maybe he's gone from the show, you know. And we also talked about how we jumped ahead a bit, but we find out that Mulder actually took a shotgun to a dead body's face and blew its features off to you know, fake his own death, which is grim. That is pretty hardcore, Mulder. You might want to seek psychiatric help, not just for your, you know, beliefs in the supernatural, but also
he'll do whatever he needs to. So I think we also, last episode, we jumped ahead because I think this is the episode where we find out that Scully is actually working with him.
Yep.
And she's doing all of her, like, lab tests on the blood, I think.
She tries to lie to Skinner, and he ain't having it.
No.
He's like, bullshit.
Yeah.
You guys are thick as thieves.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Mulder thinks he is responsible for Scully's disease, which of course weighs on his mind.
Of course.
You know, this is the season, now that we're 14 episodes ahead, this is the season where Mulder becomes the skeptic.
Yes.
And is like, I don't believe in any of this shit anymore. And Scully's kind of like, come on, Mulder.
Yeah,
come on, Mulder.
It's not so much that he's a skeptic. He is just questioning everything that he's believed.
I don't know that, because he has that panel he goes on, and he's like telling all of these guys that are believers that they're idiots, that there is nothing out there, that he knows now that it's all the government.
But that's what I think he's very much like, I've been lied to. Like, and I guess you're right. Maybe skepticism is the right word for it. But yeah, with the person, the inside guy that's with him in this episode, you know, telling him all of this, like, it definitely plants those seeds of doubt within him for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, he's part of it, though, right? Like,
yes,
they devise a plan of, okay, if Mulder is so susceptible to wild conspiracy theories, how about we make it that this has been a conspiracy theory all along?
Yeah.
To make him believe in the conspiracy theory, but the real conspiracy theory is that the conspiracy is a conspiracy.
Right.
I mean, that's how you attack someone who really is that conspiratorially minded, right? Is that you can believe, I mean, we have a lot of precedents for that right now in our country, where there's a lot of people who will believe in any conspiracy as long as it is some confirmation bias. As long as they have that there for them, they're gonna buy into it. Like, they have confirmation bias problems, to say the least, where they're just like, as long as you're telling me something that gets me to the eventual, like, goal of what I want to believe, I'll believe fucking anything.
Yeah.
You know, they don't want to ever admit they're wrong. They'll just believe in a conspiracy. It's like, you know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of, like, pharmaceutical drugs that create side effects, and you have to take other drugs to counteract the side effects, and then those drugs create side effects, so you have to take more drugs to counter the side effects of the side effects of the side effects. This is like conspiracy theories. You have to like take a conspiracy theory to plug up the holes in your other conspiracy theory, but then that creates other holes, so you got to come up with another conspiracy theory to bring up those holes.
Totally. It's like I mean, that is just like lies on lies on lies.
And then you don't know what to believe. And that's why there's so many people that are so confused and angry in our country right now.
Yeah.
Because they just don't know what to believe. And it's like, well, it isn't that the world's flat. I'll tell you that. Like, why don't we go back to like homeostasis with, I don't know, reality? That might make you feel better than to not. Because if you think you live in a world like that, you are going to feel completely lost. Yeah. I mean, there's nowhere to go from there, right? When you think that everything is against you, that everyone who's in power is lying to you, that everything is a conspiracy against you.
What I think is interesting is that like there's a level of like objective reality, but then there's also so much of reality that is subjective. So people like having conspiracy theories or like certain belief systems, like it does affect how they interact and perceive the world, which is essentially like their reality. But then there's there's the other layer of like, again, like I said, kind of more objective type things. But I think that it's everything is so complex. And I understand why people turn to certain belief systems and conspiracies to explain things, especially when there's so much horrific stuff happening in the world all the time. And it's a shame because I think that we've talked about this before. A lot of those, conspiracy theories can be very, very harmful to people's minds. And for somebody like Mulder, he has seen so many wild things. Like he's experienced so many wild things. And one of the things about his this beginning of this season and going forward with him turning into a little bit of a skeptic is that I understand why he is skeptical about aliens because of the government involvement in these things. But he's also interacted with like people who can the Pusher and have other like telepathic abilities and ghosts and reincarnation and like tombs, all kinds of like other paranormal phenomenon that he's like interacted with and experienced. Vampires. So then that is not all, some kind of cover up by the government, right? Right. It's the alien part that is the cover up, and that's all related. But everything else is all very like he has proof of that. He has experiential and sometimes like physical like data, like proof.
The show sometimes feels like it's very disconnected from its like Monster of the Week episodes.
Yeah,
right?
I agree.
Because as you had said, it does feel like a bit of a stretch that Mulder would all of a sudden be like, even though I've seen all of these other things, including some of the UFO stuff, but even without that, I've seen all of these insanely unexplained things. Now, this one thing, the thing that got me on my quest to begin with, that's the conspiracy. And that I mean, it's ridiculous that you believe in UFOs, even though I've personally seen, a lava monster and like all these things where you're like, why would you stop believing in this one thing when you've seen so much other?
Yeah.
Right. So it does feel like a bit of a stretch, and it does kind of take away from all the other episodes that Mulder knows. Like he saw that freaking body levitating in a room. He's seen things flying around the room unexplained. He's seen so much. So is Scully. Things. So is Scully for sure.
Oh yeah.
But this show feels like there's two different shows going on. There's the like prime storyline, which is always the government
and aliens.
Yeah. That is the prime storyline. Yeah. And then anything outside of the prime storyline is kind of like a what if. It's like an alternate reality version of the show or something.
Yeah, it's really weird because I think most people, when they think of the X-Files, like, you automatically think of aliens. But there is so many other things explored. And so but this, episode, I'm trying to remember specifically, like, this isn't when he gets into the facility, right? Or does he? Into the government facility, or is that the next episode?
It doesn't matter. We're talking about both.
Oh, we are. Okay.
Yeah.
So, when he goes into that facility and, like, goes into the room full of alien bodies.
Yeah.
And he's, like, just supposed to think that those are all manufactured.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Well, he has the one in the ice, and they said that they, like, poured it in there, but the ice is, like, thousands of years old, so it's like, I don't know how he thinks that thing got poured in there and that they doused it in...
They do some kind of, he said, there's some explanation where it's like it took like a year of planning, but I'm like, I don't get it though. They tested the ice and it's supposed to be super, super old.
It is super old.
So what did they do? They melted
supposedly like they like cored it out and then like poured it in there. But I don't understand how you couldn't do that because they checked the ice all the way around it. They said that they like drilled a hole into the top of it and poured it in. That's not, you'd have to have a spot open up for that specifically, and then you'd have to have it like perfectly a mold, but it also has innards that they cut open and do an autopsy on.
Yes.
Like, no, that doesn't work. What are you talking about? The fact that Mulder would believe that is kind of insane to me because it's not possible to fake something like that. You can't have like, testing on this ice and it's thousands of years old. I don't know. Like, I guess you could melt. I don't know how you would do it. There's nothing that I can think of.
Do you think that even like now, let's say now, but whether or not it was in the 90s or not, do you think you could make like a fake body that has biological like tissue? Because that was the whole thing, is that it's like, it's a completely fake body.
That would hold up under
biological
scientific scrutiny?
Yeah.
No.
That just seems
because
insane.
Whatever material you use, that's kind of the point of the testing.
Right.
Is that the testing would bring back something. We have such sophisticated testing now that you can tell what anything is. This is why even in this show, that girl they kill after she's like, this by definition would have to be extraterrestrial, what you brought me.
Right.
It's like, they can tell if it's a cow, they can tell if it's a plant, they can tell if it, like, they know what the chemical components are of all things on this planet.
Yeah, I agree. I think you could make something look super realistic.
But they destroy the body before it can be, like, really tested. And Scully was specifically made sick so that she would die before she could test the body. But then they steal the body anyway. And then Smoking Man lets Scully's cure get out. I don't know. A lot of this feels very sloppy. Honestly.
I think I agree with you. I feel like there's a bit of a expectation for there to be these like twists and turns and like conspiracy things going on within the show. So I do think that occasionally we get these storylines specifically with the government that just feels kind of like, is that what? Like, that doesn't
These are my
make
least favorite
that sense.
episodes.
I agree. And that sucks because I care about the like overarching story. I care about Mulder's quest to find his sister.
I'm caring less and less.
But I just feel like, I don't feel like they're written very well. Honestly.
I don't think they have a plan at all, and I think they make it up on the fly as they write them.
That's definitely what it feels like. And of course, I think we maybe talked about it the last episode, or at least some episode. We know, like, the viewer knows that aliens are real. Like, the Deep Throat killed one. So, so this isn't a conspiracy. So, like, that means that Mulder probably is in a room full of aliens. Like, like, those are real aliens that he's around. Yeah.
We have to keep in mind, though, and I think this is important because we're used to Netflix. We're used to modern television where we have unlimited access and binge-worthy shows and all this stuff nowadays, right? As to where back in the day, that's not how shows were. Shows weren't viewed in the same way that they're viewed today.
Yeah.
Usually between episodes, you had weeks, months, and years. And so, like, when one episode would come, it would give you just enough, but it was never meant to be, like, analyzed. It was never meant to be held under any kind of scrutiny where they would say, oh, wait, but that doesn't really line up with episode 6 of season 2. You know what I mean? Like, that's not how these shows were handled.
Yeah.
They were kind of like, just make shit up and that'll be good enough.
Yeah.
But nowadays audiences are much more critical. We're much more analytical. We pay attention to every single little aspect. Like, people weren't as, like, obsessed with plot and consistency, right, as they were once upon a time. I've always kind of been a continuity whore my whole life, even though I grew up with like the most horrible continuity in horror movies. They were always fucked up, like in the Halloween franchise or whatever, where you're like, did they even see the last movie? So I think that is important to think about while we watch these, is that they didn't, and especially since the fact that this show has like 2 episodes that do connect, and then we go 5 episodes where it kind of has nothing to do with anything. Then we get back to the main storyline. Then we have like a few episodes. Then maybe a couple little nods to the main storyline. So I think by the time you get like 18 episodes later and you're finally getting back to some of the plot threads from before, people are like, I don't even remember what the fuck happened.
Yeah. Truthfully, I feel like the show is the strongest when it has, like, contained stories within episodes. I think that whenever we have these, like, 2 or 3 episode story arcs, I just feel like they're convoluted and unnecessarily long. Especially the 3 episode ones. I don't think it warrants it, which makes me really curious because I had seen the movie, but I'm, like, really wondering. But you love the movie. But this is also the first time you're seeing it in context of the show. So I really am curious if it feels like these episodes where it's just like a kind of this drawn out, convoluted storyline. I'm very curious about it. And that's not to say, like, would it be better if the X-Files, like, just really was like a monster of the week, like every episode? Maybe. Because that's kind of fun, is that they just go and investigate all these weird things that happen, and you just can keep exploring so many different, like, bizarre tales from around the world, around the country. Like,
I like the idea.
I like that. I like
the idea of the through line that comes in and out. It's just I don't like the execution.
Yeah.
So it's not that it's too much, that there's like 3 episodes in a row that has a storyline. It's that it doesn't really work.
Yeah.
That I have a problem with. If they had a better continuity to them, if they had a bigger payoff to them, if it made sense to what had been set up previously, then I'd be completely fine with it. So in theory, right, like when you watch Buffy the Vampire Slayer, there's Monster of the Week episodes every other week, but then there's the main storyline where she's taking on the Master, or she's taking on Adam, or she's taking on, you know, so she always has the big bad of the season, and we maybe get 4 or 5 episodes of the 20 some odd episodes where they focus on that specific storyline, and then the rest of the, you know, it's like they're taking on the Gentleman, or they're taking on whatever, and they have no connections to anything else. So you can do Monster of the Week shows and always get back to the main plot line and for it to work. But it's just with this, it's not that it doesn't, I don't hate it. I'm just kind of always like, I don't know if this is thought out. But
I agree.
Let's get back to the episodes. Just get through these scenes really quick. We get the dude from the first episode comes back, and he's in, you know, has the finger pointed at him by Mulder, and he ends up being right. He says he just guessed, but that gets him X'd out of the FBI. We got the smoking man crying at Mulder's death, giving more credibility to that he is his father.
Yep.
And we already talked about all that. Smoking man has the ability to stop Mulder from getting out of the Pentagon. He decides to let him go.
Yes, he does. So let's leave.
This also lends credibility that he is his son.
Yep.
And he's like, I can't do it.
He's just protecting him.
Now, to note here, this Scully is still sick. She's dying. She passes out at the end of this episode.
Okay, yeah, this is where she has the nosebleed.
He thinks that he gets the cure. He pours it out, and the lone gunmen confirm that it is just ionized water and that it's all a ruse. But we know in episode 2 that there's actually a very, very small microchip in there that they did not find. And this is when we find out Bill Scully is not a fan of Mulder.
He's not. He does not like Mulder. Mulder, comes to Scully and is like, there's a microchip in here. I think we need to put it in you. And, Scully's family, her mom and Bill are both like, no, like, we need to just do what the doctor says. And Scully obviously is like, I mean, what other options do I have?
Why not?
Like, why not?
Why not? And Bill's like, no.
Bill is so mad at
Fuck
Mulder.
Him.
Yeah.
I get it, because he thinks he got Melissa killed.
Yes.
And it's like,
100%.
I'm sorry, Bill, but if you watch that scene, it's Scully that gets her killed.
Unfortunately, it is. But yeah, he definitely blames Mulder for not only Scully's illness, but also Melissa's death. And I think he just, in general, thinks that Mulder doesn't consider Scully
an equal.
An equal, but I think he just doesn't. He's worried that her life has been put at risk and will continue to be put at risk because Mulder has, this quest that he's on.
Right. She's
and that's
expendable
fair.
for the quest.
Yeah. She's not expendable. Like, we know that Mulder cares deeply about her, but I totally understand why a family member would be like, no. So I think it's fine. But
Mulder shows up at the hearing. This is how they find out, like, wait, don't you not have a head?
Yeah, when he shows up and Skinner's like, you're supposed to be dead, or whatever he says to him. So funny. I love when Skinner's just like out of the loop in things, but he always has their back still. He's just like,
well, he tells them, like, you gotta remember who your friends are.
Yes. Yeah, I have my Skinner glasses now, in case anybody noticed. This was my main motivation for getting this frame.
Yeah, I mean, the fact that they don't want her to do the treatment when it's like, literally just put this in your body. It's like a little chip. You're dying. There's nothing that the doctors can do. It's like, who gives a shit? Who cares? Put it in there. They just think like, we're wasting time. She's going to go in. She's going to spend hours of her last hours doing a completely pointless surgery, right. Giving her hope when there is none. But here's the thing that pisses me off, is that Bill nor anyone gives Mulder any apology or anything after Dana all of a sudden miraculously gets completely better.
Yeah.
Like, don't you think that it's kind of odd that there was no chance she was going to live, then she gets that operation, and then all of a sudden a miracle happens?
Yeah.
They, of course, believe it's because she talked to the priest, right? So they send the priest into her room, and she prays with him. They are going to be like, oh, see, it's God that did it.
Yeah, I don't think they say anything like that explicitly, but I would imagine, because they're religious, I would imagine that is how they explain it.
Maybe that is what happened.
Maybe it is. I mean, we literally were told that Scully, like, would never die. So, I hope that continues.
I mean, there's this like afterlife that's shown in her coma episode. She has like a ghost of a nurse, like a guardian angel that watches over her.
Yeah, she's like very.
Do I think it's the chip? Yes, 100%.
I do too, but I also.
And I said that from the beginning. As soon as they took it out, I was like, it's the chip. They need to put it back in.
Yeah.
I can't believe no one thought of that. Of all the chicks who had this thing taken out, and then all of them get sick. As soon as they take it out,
I know. I agree. Like, I feel like
maybe put it back in, see if it reverses.
For some reason, they're thinking like it's the chip that made me sick, and like I don't know. But I agree.
One of them would be like,
I totally agree.
Fucking, I'm putting it back in.
Somebody should have like caught that, but it's just kind of convenient.
I thought of it this literal minute that it was fucking said. I was like, well, if it made you sick to take it out, put it back.
Yeah. I definitely think Scully has like some protection from the unseen realms, though. She definitely seems to get help a lot of the time.
Yep. And then we have the big reveal, the massive reveal, the end-all be-all reveal. Samantha is alive, and she's been living thinking the smoking man is her father. He drives him over to Mulder. This time for real. This is not a clone.
Yes, this is really Samantha.
Probably Samantha. You never know with this show.
I know.
But no, Samantha, the sister Mulder's been looking for the entire show. The literal driving force of the entire show.
It was literally his white whale. Has
finally been revealed, and she is alive. She has kids.
Yep.
She doesn't want to come and meet her mom. She's like, this is too much for me. She drives off with the smoking man saying he's a good guy. Yeah, and we are freaking 12 episodes past this episode, and she is yet to be brought up again. So
yeah,
I would think that Mulder would be like, Scully, remember that chick I was looking for?
I found her. I know. I don't think they even mention it.
No.
Which is kind of crazy because that is all of that Mulder cares about, essentially. I mean, he like begs her. He's like, just tell me, like, we can do this on your own time. Just give me your phone number. Just give me your address. Like, well, I just want to know where you are.
With the clone,
he told her.
He told her immediately. But when he thinks this is really 100% his sister, and it is, he doesn't tell anybody.
He's probably some
like,
part of him is still skeptical.
Yeah.
Right? Like, this is going to be I'm not going to, like, get my hopes up again, even though he clearly is hopeful. And B, the fact that it's the smoking man that's, like, the dad or whatever. I think that there's just a lot of, like, he doesn't know necessarily what to think of that. Like, because he even tells him, like, because the smoking man, like, he says to him, he's like, I gave you everything you wanted. And he's like, what do you mean? Like, you gave me, like, my sister and then, like, took her away from me again. Yeah, like, what do you mean? Like, you didn't give me anything. So I do think that there's, that part of it. So
sure. So that's that. Redux 1 and 2, as well as the previous episode. So 3-parter. Scully is cured. Samantha has returned, but then left again. And Mulder is now been tricked into believing that it's all a conspiracy within a conspiracy, wrapped in an enigma. Yeah. So those are the main takeaways. Overall, they're fine. I mean, I'm glad that we're getting to the meat of these things, especially since I think this movie was supposed to be like the end. So you definitely want to get some big reveals here.
Yeah.
But Redux 1 and 2. And we'll see you in the next one. All right. Bye.